Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sam and today I am bringing you another game of TBR Jenga. If you haven't seen any of my other TBR Jenga videos, then don't worry, I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description and on the screen here. Never know what side it is, but the rules are pretty simple. I have my teeny tiny Jenga tower and each of the blocks has a different prompt, and I use those prompts to pick books to read. So I'll be picking 5 blocks and I'll be using those prompts to choose the books that I'm going to read in December. If I knock the tower over, then I have to pick a penalty book, so 6 books instead of 5, but hopefully that doesn't happen. This is obviously going to be my final TBR of the year because it's December, and I want to try and go easy on myself because December is my birthday and also Christmas, and so there's other stuff that I'm going to be prioritising, so I might not have as much time to be reading. I also feel like I've been reading a lot lately and I don't want to burn myself out or put myself into a reading slump to start the new year. But anyway, without further ado, let's pick the first prompt. So as you can see, the first prompt that I got was non-fiction, and for this I've decided to go for Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. I've been wanting to read this book for a while because it sounds like the kind of book that I'd enjoy, and I know a few people that have read it that have said it's really funny and relatable, and so hopefully I'll like it. Dolly Alderton is a journalist, and I think this book is basically a memoir all about growing up through your 20s and the stuff that you go through, like your career, jobs, friends and relationships. I really hope that this is as funny as I'm thinking it's going to be. And Dolly Alderton also has another book that's just come out that's a fiction book. I think it's called Ghosts, and it has a really beautiful green cover, and again that sounds really interesting and like something I'd enjoy. So hopefully I like Dolly Alderton's writing because I'd really like to pick that up too at some point. The next prompt was to read the last book that I bought, and the last book that I bought was actually Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I saw it on offer on Kindle for 99p a few days ago, and I just have no self-control apparently. This is actually one of my 5-star book predictions. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to love it, and I know so many people who have said that Frederick Bachman is one of their favourite authors, and I know a lot of people have also said that Beartown is one of his best books. So from what I know about the plot, Beartown is set in this small Swedish community where the local people are obsessed with hockey, and the junior hockey team is about to compete in this national competition where they have a real chance of winning, and so all of the hopes and dreams of this small town has been placed firmly on the shoulders of these hockey players. When a teenage girl accuses the star player of rape, it causes this split and divide in the community, and I think the book basically deals with the outcome of that. Just from reading the summary, it sounds really powerful and emotional and the kind of book that I do enjoy, and so yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this. The next prompt came up as contemporary, and for this I've decided to read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. From what I know, this is about a woman called Emma who marries her childhood sweetheart. They've been together since they were like teenagers and they're now in their early 20s, and they're very much in love, but then her husband goes missing. I think he's in a helicopter accident or something like that, and because he's presumed dead, Emma is obviously heartbroken, but she starts to move on with her life, and many years later she meets someone and gets engaged. Her ex-husband is then found alive, and so Emma is forced into this decision of who does she choose, her fiance or her husband. I've actually read 2 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, and I really loved Evelyn Hugo. It's one of my favourite books. Daisy Jones and the Six I wasn't as big a fan of. I still liked it, and I especially liked Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, and so I'm really hoping that I like this too because I've got all of her backlist, all of the books that she wrote before her 2 most popular books. I think she was most well known for writing contemporary romances, and so I bought them all like the other week or the other month. I bought them all over the summer because they were only 99p on Kindle, and so I'm going to be slowly working my way through them all, hopefully over the next year. I think it's really interesting when you find an author that you love to go back and read some of their earlier books just so you can see how much their writing has changed. The next prompt came up to read a book with a blue cover. For this prompt, I've decided to go for Northern Lights by Philip Pullman, which I think in America is actually called The Golden Compass. This is the first book in the His Dark Materials trilogy, which is one of my favourite series that I read when I was a kid. However, I haven't actually read this series since I was a teenager, and I've been really wanting to reread it for a while. If you don't know the story, it basically follows a girl called Lyra who goes on this adventure or this mission to try and find her friend who's been kidnapped. It's set in a world that's very similar to ours, except that everyone has a demon, and a demon is basically your soul, but it lives outside your body in the form of an animal. Like I said, this is going to be a reread for me, and I'm really excited to see how I feel about this book as an adult, because I've heard a few people say that some of the themes in this are quite dark, and so they probably would have just gone completely over my head when I was like 12, 13. So yeah, really interested to see how that goes. The final block came up as reread, and so for this I am going to be reading or rereading Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman, which was another one of my favourite books that I read when I was a teenager. Again, I'm trying to think of the last time I read this, and I think I would have been probably about 14 or 15. This is a young adult novel that's set in an alternative reality to ours. It follows two teenagers called Callum and Seffi who have been best friends since they were kids. Seffi is a cross, which means she has dark skin, and she lives a life of privilege. I'm pretty sure her dad works for the government, whereas Callum is a naught, and in this world the paler your skin is, the lower class you are deemed by society. There's actually a bit of a story around how I came to read this book, because I got on World Book Day for free An Eye for an Eye, which is a really short novella, and it's set after the events of Noughts and Crosses, and I really enjoyed this, even though it completely spoils the ending of the first book. But because I loved it so much, I did go out and buy this first book, and I read it, and it made me cry. It was so good. I can remember that I read this first book over and over again, and then I read the second book when it came out and the third book, and I'm sure I've read the fourth book as well, but I don't actually have a copy, so I must have borrowed it from the library. I know that I definitely haven't read the latest book because I think that only came out last year or the year before, but I really want to work my way back through this series and see if I do enjoy it just as much reading it as an adult compared to when I was a kid. So those are the 5 books on my Jenga TBR. There are actually a few other books that I do also want to read in December, because there's a few different read-alongs that I'm taking part in. The first read-along that I'm taking part in is Tolkien Along, which is being hosted by Beth from Books Nest, Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. What was that? Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction and Lauren from Fiction Tea. I'll leave all the details in the description if you did want to find out more. But for December, we are going to be moving on to The Return of the King. And I don't know why I'm already saying that I'm planning to read this when I still haven't finished The Two Towers. I'm about halfway through, so I'm hoping that I can finish it before the end of the month. But I am really tempted to get the audiobook for this, and then I can alternate between reading it physically and listening to the audiobook while I'm out for my walks, and it might just help me get through it a little bit quicker. The next book that I want to read is The Girl in the Tower, which is the second book in the Winternight Trilogy. This is a read-along that's being hosted by Megan from Meg with Books, and again, I'll leave all the details linked in the description if you did want to find out more. I read the first book in the trilogy this month, earlier in the month, and really loved it. The writing is so beautiful and it's really atmospherical. And atmospherical, is that a word? I actually think it's a perfect series to be reading in winter just because of the setting. And so yeah, hopefully I can get round to reading book 2 in December. Finally, I also really want to read Days of Blood and Starlight. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the second book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. This is a read-along that's being hosted by Maddie from Book Browsing Blog, and again, I will leave all her details and all the details of all the other read-alongs in the description if you'd like to find out more. Okay, so those are all the books that I'm planning to read in December. Whether I actually get round to them is going to be a whole other issue, because I still have 2 books from my November TBR that I need to finish. I have started both of them. I'm about 50% through the one and about 10% through the other, so wish me luck. Let me know in the comments if there's any books that you're planning to read in December, and if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!